Hi everyone, Christy here with PK1homeschoolfun.com, and I hope you're ready for some crazy monster silliness because it is finally time for me to show you guys my Monster Rush game. I'm super duper happy with how this game turned out. I love the little monsters and I love all the funny stories about the silly things that they do, and I really hope that you do also and that the kids in your life really love this game. I feel like I hopefully came up with something really fun and funny and paired it with something that hopefully will be very valuable in helping kids learn how to add and subtract units of time from specific times. So this is the Monster Rush game. I'm going to show you what the download includes and show you how to assemble some of the pieces. So yeah, let's get started. So here is the game board, and I know I used a lot of color in this, but I think it helps with having to, see all of these numbers and do something with the numbers. It helps when it's really colorful. So I have this colorful game board, and I also created a black and white version if you just don't want to use the ink. Remember, a good tip is to always print in draft mode, even when you're doing in color. A lot of times it still comes out pretty cute. You can't really tell, and especially when you laminate, it comes out all shiny and everything. So print in draft mode if you're trying to save color, and and then if you want to use the black and white, you can always do some color therapy and color this in yourself. So that's that. And there's also a couple of pages for the playing cards. So here are the playing cards. They all look the same on the one side, so the Monster Rush. And then on the back it has the little stories about the whatever silly antics your monster is up to and whether you end up being early or late to wherever you're going. So this also has a lot of color in the back. I just know a lot of people, when I first started doing printables, was like, oh, it's too much color, I can't use it because of my printer. So sometimes I really try sometimes to add the black and white version. So I also included this back as an alternative to the color one. So if you want to use this one instead, and that way it's not using a lot of color. So you're going to want to print that two-sided, whether your printer does it automatically or you do have to do it manually. You find those two pages in the printable, and then just print those specific pages front and back for the cards. And then next I have the little player pieces. So I have these playing pieces with the little monsters on it, and so you're going to use those if you want to. You can use something else, but they kind of match everything. So we'll use those player pieces to go along the board. I also included, I really like using the student clocks with this game. Grab one. And so you can use the student clocks if you have them, and if not, I also included a printable clock that you can make. So you can laminate this, or not laminate it if you want to, but laminate it, and then the kids can use this to work out their times as they're working with it, because I think they really need to have some manipulative clock while they're answering the questions. And lastly, specifically if you have a classroom that you're putting this together for, I made these little worksheets because I noticed that a lot of the file folder games that I downloaded had worksheets, and I thought, oh, I wonder if that's what they do in classrooms, maybe to prove that you worked on this game. So I made these little worksheets, and then the kids can write their answers. And I noticed that for my kids when we were playing this, it really helped them to write the answer down after they got it. It wasn't enough to just say, oh, I was 20 minutes late, so that means I got there at 4:35, and then move on to the next player. Just something about having to write it down in the earlier late column really helped them out, kind of solidify what they're writing and kind of gave a sense of finality to their turn. So I included these. My kids actually liked writing the numbers down, so that was good. Okay, that is everything's in the printable, and now I'm going to show you how to create each piece. Okay, so I have printed out the game board onto cardstock, and I'm going to laminate this because I really want my kids to be using this a lot this year so they can work on their time. And I printed this out in normal mode, but I know I used a lot of color, and I wanted to do that on purpose because with all of the clock faces, it can get a little overwhelming. So I want it to be really colorful and fun. If it's too much color for you, you can do it in draft mode to save on ink, if your printer has that, and most printers do have that capability. And I also included a black and white one if you wanted to do it in black and white. You could color it yourself, or you could print it on colored paper. So I'm going to put this in a laminating pouch and get it through the laminator. Okay, now that I've got the game board laminated, I'm just going to use a paper cutter to trim the edges off because I want to put this into a file folder to make it a file folder game for my kids, and it won't fit into a standard file folder if I don't trim the edges, so I'm going to do that next. Alright, now I've got it all trimmed around the edges, and then I'm just using my corner punch to punch the corners so that it's not too sharp, because I don't like how sharp it feels when you cut the laminated papers like that. So there, I've got my board all ready to go, and the next step to do is cut the cards. So I'm going to use my paper cutter, and I'm just going to trim along the outside edges, and then I'll trim all the inside lines. Alright, so I'm just trimming the edges on the cards, and I just wanted to mention that I had printed this on a double-sided printing, the backs and then the fronts of the cards. So there are actually 3 pages in the file for the cards, and one is just a black and white back for the cards. So you can use the color, or you can use the black and white back. It just says Monster Rush on the back, so I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so now I've got my cards cut, printed and cut, and ready to go. And the next step is to print and assemble my little plain pieces. Okay, so here's the page with the plain pieces on them. Now I've done color and black and white. If you'd rather use the black and white ones, it's up to you. I just realized it doesn't make any sense if you're trying to save on ink, so I'll separate these into 2 different pages in the final version. So I'm just going to cut these out, and I'm going to show you how to assemble them. Okay, so now we're going to put together our little monster pieces, and all we're going to do is fold this on the dotted line, and then we're just going to take a piece of tape and tape these 2 pieces together. So you're just going to put a piece of tape like this, and fold it over. And then you have a little monster guy ready to play the game. Okay, next up is the clock. Now, I happen to love this clock. And I actually don't even know the name of it or how to find it again, but I'll see if I can find it for you. The reason why I like this particular clock over the other student clocks is that as you move the minute hand, the hour hand moves as well. And what I found is that the trickiest part about telling time for my kids so far, and in their books and everything, is that this hour hand is moving, and it's confusing to them when you have like 3:55 and the hour hand is, you know, pointing closer to the 4 than it is to 3, and it's really confusing for my kids to figure out what hour it is, so they keep getting tripped up on that. So I really like this because as they're making the time, the hour hand is moving, and it makes it very clear what's going on and why this hour hand is maybe closer to, you know, the next hour when you get up here towards, you know, the top of the hour. So anyway, I really like this clock, but if you don't have one or you need something else, then I've included a printable in this download that has a clock that you can make. So let me show you how to make that clock real quick. Okay, so now we're going to assemble the clock. So I've printed this clock out on cardstock. And what I'm going to do is laminate it. So put my laminating paper, get this through the laminator. Okay, now that this is out of the laminator, I'm just going to take my scissors and first cut around the clock, and then cut out whichever hands that I want to use. Okay, now that I've got the pieces cut out that I'm going to use, I'm going to put them together. And then I did want to show you guys that I left a little space on the outside of the clock hands just to make it easier to put hole punch. If you don't cut it wide enough, you might not be able to put your hole punch in there. So what I'm going to do first is make a little slit in the clock, and I'm going to use a pad of paper to go underneath it, and this X-Acto knife that I have. And I'm just going to cut a small slit here, and I'm going to do it the width of the brad or round fastener or whatever you call it. Not sure I got this quite in the middle here, but I'm going to cut that through and make sure that it goes all the way through, because if it's laminated cardstock, you're going to need some force to do that, so please don't cut your fingers. Okay, now I think that's probably big enough for the brad to go through. Yes, it is. Okay, now I'm going to take a little hole punch, and hopefully I get this right the first time here. I'm actually going to, I got this little hole punch in this flower pressing kit, and it's really awesome. It's like really good for the kids to use. Sometimes the hole punches are too hard. Okay, so I'm going to line that up here. I can see through the hole there. Shoot through. Alright, I got my hole punch. That going, and then I'm going to do the other hand. Just using the bottom there so I can see. I did that earlier and I was shooting little paper circles at myself. It's kind of funny. Okay, so now I'm going to put my brad through each hand here. I think they used to be called brads, I don't know. And then I'm going to poke that through the slit that I made. Flip that over and bend those parts down. And then I should have a little clock that we can use. Alright, so now I can make my little times here and work with my 5, 10, 15, 20, and this can be used with my Monster Rush game. Alright, and that's the Monster Rush game. Thank you so much for watching and for hopefully downloading and printing and enjoying this super fun game. I hope you guys have some crazy monster fun with your families or for your classrooms. And thanks so much for being a PK1 fan. We'll see you soon.